Hello, thank you all for joining us at Tenbound, our Pipeline Fest. We're going to be talking about tech stacks here. And just to let you know, give you a heads up, the sessions will be recorded. Replays will be available after the event is over. For any questions that you have, please drop them in the Q&A section on the right side if you hit the Conversations tab. And we have Scott Logan, who will be moderating for us, and he'll get to the Q&A sections. So without further ado, Scott, please feel free to take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Today, wanted to make this session a little bit more unique about tech stacks, give you some information you may not know, and create some interaction between the audience. So please go ahead and chat your chats and ask your questions as we go along, and we'll interject throughout the conversation. So together we brought go-to-market leaders from Vidyard and Sendoso and Chronologic here. So I'll go around the horn, starting with Zach, then Dan, and Ben on some quick introductions.
Thanks, Scott. How's it going? My name's Zach Allspaw. I'm Director of Customer Lifecycle Marketing over at Sendoso.
Awesome. And Dan Wardle, the VP of Revenue here at Vidyard. I've been at Vidyard now for over 8 years, so really living and breathing video for a long time, and looking forward to the chat.
Hey y'all, Ben Parker, co-founder and COO of Chronologic right here in Austin, Texas. When you're co-founder, you wear a lot of hats, but what I've been primarily focused on the last 2.5 years is really our go-to-market and deployment strategy.
And thank you. And you can tell Dan's from the video organization, Vidyard, because of his perfect background, and it's out of focus in the back, and he's in perfect crisp HD. Very, very well done. I would expect nothing less from the
It's
video.
subtle and makes him look like $1 million.
It does. It does. It's like me standing next to some Hollywood actor or something. That's fantastic. So to kick things off, let's start with a poll just to see where the audience is. Which sales tools are you using today? Let's look at the multiple selection. So choose all the ones that apply. Standard sales engagement, video, direct mail, scheduling, the tools that apply here. With this audience, along with the more standard email and calls that are being used more traditionally from our SDR and ISR teams. So as the votes come in, I'll just close this a little bit early. It looks like we have a few dozen that have rolled in, so let's go ahead and just close the poll to move this quickly. So sorry if you got cut off. Your opinion is important, you just weren't fast enough. And the results show the email and call cadences. We have about 35%. Pretty good for video and direct mail on a quarter of the audience. And scheduling is about 16%. So very interesting. Are you seeing that, Dan, when you reach out to folks, your team does, that video is part of their core strategy already, or they're trying to?
Definitely not the normal. I actually just was on a session earlier with the Tenbound group, and what we're finding is it's still relatively a new thing, and especially when you get outside of Tenbound, Sendoso, Chronologic, like the tech world that we're all in these webinars all the time. Once you get outside of that, it's still a pretty unique thing. I was mentioning I've probably had 10, 15 emails already this morning on the East Coast, and none of them have had video in it. So it's still a new thing.
I would say that I very rarely get a video message, and if it is, it's from a company who has video as part of their own solution. However, it is personalized and it's great. And we'll get into some of those differentiators. And just last on the poll here, Zach, what are you finding for direct mail? Is it the sales teams who are using it? Is it mainly marketers? What are you seeing?
Traditionally, it used to be marketers, but I think coming out of the year that we've had, and the playbook kind of got scrapped pretty drastically for a lot of us, sales teams are way more inclined to try it because inboxes are crowded. It's harder to reach people by phone. So trying something new and a way to stand out has really made a difference for a lot of companies coming out of the pandemic and into this new kind of outlook in 2021 as well.
Yeah, I know that I'm a fan of direct mail when it's used in a very specific and personalized way, especially, or even aligned to a campaign. I see your Sendoso Pinata in the background. I know that would be fun for the kids in the house too, if you have any. So that's great. Let's dive right into the conversation here. So Ben, let's start this one off with you. What's wrong with the status quo of using just calls and emails? I know that the pandemic has emphasized this, but what is this buyer experience and seller experience like?
Yeah, we recently did some study with Heinz Marketing around this specific thing, and I think it's not rocket science. We all experienced the last year together. No one's listing their cell phones in the Office directory or online. So getting a hold of people directly is harder, and left to our own devices and with the tools that we had available to us, we produced an environment that has buyers saying, 80% of buyers saying that the most painful part of their entire buyer journey is getting what they're calling lead chased by emails after they've already said, hey, I'm interested, I'm in a buying cycle, let's talk.
Yeah, having that barrier from the sales rep of needing to utilize the SDR conversation or reply to an email is absolutely something that a lot of people wish they didn't have to do. And on the marketing side, we're seeing that 78% from the same Heinz Marketing study of marketers most fear that there's no or not enough follow-up on the leads that they're investing so much money and time into. And so when you don't hit your numbers, typically you throw more leads into the sales side, and then it just emphasizes this problem of just too many things to do, and there's not enough prioritization, and we're doing more of what buyers are annoyed by. So there's some better ways to address this and cut through the noise, which is why we've assembled this crack team of experts here. So what are some obvious mistakes during the prospecting process that we can avoid and learn from? Zach, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just piggybacking right off of that email and chasing people down thread is really not being myopic with how you engage with your leads and contacts. So we really spent a lot of time as sales and marketing keying in on differentiators and how do we stand out among the competition. But you're competing with so much more than the people in your marketplace and do similar things. You're competing for line items and budgets because there's only so much money to go around for technology, and ultimately you're competing for attention, right? Against everything, their families, news headlines, everything that they're doing in a day to break in and have that initial conversation. So those initial outreaches and those moments of contact, you really need to make them count. And how do you really help your company and yourself as an individual seller stand out and be memorable and kind of keep that momentum high so they're willing to engage and have those follow-up conversations.
Yep, absolutely. And then honing in on the personalization component you spoke to at the beginning there, Dan, you have obviously some experience in how to do that with video. So can you kind of address some of the challenges that folks are trying to avoid when they do move forward with video or some other solution like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest pushback we get from sales leaders is, isn't this going to take more time? Isn't this going to slow us down? How much time is it going to take to make a video? Like, there's a lot of reticence there, and I see why. If your first try at a video takes 30 minutes, you're going to think, this is going to take way too much time. It gets easier, it gets faster, you got to be just okay with it. I don't think I've re-recorded a video in the last year. You make a mistake, you keep going, you send it anyway. So that's the big one. So then the key is, okay, let's look at what kind of video I'm using and which stage of the cycle, and how to make sure I'm not spending too much time on it. How to make sure I'm not getting too personal, too deep, because then you're still only getting, at best a 60% open rate on emails these days. How many people are actually clicking on the video? Like, there's all those things you've got to think about. So really the only important thing is the thumbnail. Catch their attention, make a personal connection. You could even make a standard video, like, replying and following up with all the Tenbound leads after this. Maybe your team just makes one video about the Tenbound conference. It doesn't have to be specifically about that person, but it's still personal. So thinking about that. But when you had mentioned we were going to talk about this question, like the biggest fear I always have is when a rep misses a piece of personalization in their cadence step, like they forgot to insert the video or they forgot to change the person's name or something. Like, there's nothing worse than that. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah. And that's great that I think that is the hardest part. You're not scared of those little mistakes or pauses or little confusions in your pitch that you say, oh, I actually meant this, and then you just carry on and move. I know that when I first started to have an SDR team do videos, it was that they went to the phone booth office, they came out half an hour later, and I said, so you just sent like probably 20 videos, and they're like, no, I just perfected one. I was like, how many people?
Yeah, to go to the side, my favorite story of this is one of our sales leaders back when we were in the office a couple years ago. Him and one of his reps just made this really quick video, laptop up on a stool, made the video in a room that was too dark, like didn't follow their own rules, and sent it out to a whole bunch of follow-ups, like thousands of people. Got amazing response. So they're like, all right, let's get the video team, let's get a DSLR, let's make a better video. And then we redid it. And the next month they sent all the follow-ups to those events, and we got like a 1% response rate because it looks like a marketing video. It's got to be authentic. It's got to feel like it's coming from a human, not from marketing. No offense to marketing.
None taken. Ben, you had a comment on that?
Man, it's a huge one, Dan. The perception of people, like everybody the digital age has conditioned people to see, perfect lighting and all these other perfect elements as like that's too curated. Yes, I see that this is a human being reaching out to me, but I don't identify with them. They're not a real human being to me. I can't see the imperfections, that I take in all of my friends and all of my family members in this, and therefore it's too sterile. You hit the nail on the head, and that is something that we see. Scott, I actually kind of want to grab the mic for half a second here because it's such a perfect segue from what Dan was talking about. Is if you're confined, if you can't do something special like send a tasteful direct mail piece, you can't do a quick personalized video that grabs attention. Keep the email you're sending brief. And there is the segue, the reason that those clusters of neurons fired in my head was because when we see long emails, or when customers try to write long emails, what we're experiencing on that other side is, okay, marketing writes long emails. What your recipient is going to see is like, this is a marketing email that is attempting to warn me. This is not a sales email that is like, you're in market, we do the thing you're looking for, let's get down to business. So anyway, the faux pas that I see and try to coach in our reps is brevity, target 4 sentences or less, and tell them what you're going to do for them that nobody else can.
Yeah, and Ben, can you also double down on the value? Because I know that in the Chronologic platform where we're sending calendar invites at scale, there's some templates built out, and they're all text-based, and there's a formula that has like some values and agenda. Can you dive into that just real quick as well? Because I think a lot of people are missing the personalization of the invite, and it's Scott plus Ben meeting. A week later, the prospect is clueless. Can you shed some light?
Yeah, I would say 2 big things there. Thing number 1 is kind of like what we were talking about, and Dan talked about this too. Don't miss a personalization opportunity. You don't have to necessarily write the most perfect bespoke message for that unique person, that came to the Tenbound event, but reference the fact that you were both at the Tenbound event, and this is going to be a debrief off the Tenbound. Additionally, the other piece there around the value and why we try to coach our own customers in like how to craft these, sometimes 2-sentence messages is because the way that your recipients are ingesting that information is changing. You're less than a 50-50 chance when you send an email that the person's going to read that on a desktop. And so, that's old news. Everybody knows that. So you're trying to read it on a phone screen. Well, I have a new thing that I actually just trained our reps on like 2 weeks ago because I recognized a change in my own behavior. How many people have Apple Watches out there? Like a lot. Most people are running on Apple. Like I shouldn't say most people, but there are a ton of prospects in kind of the knowledge worker economy that at least have an Apple Watch. Well, the way that I decide if this has just happened naturally in my behavior. I had no conscious effort. Over the last year or so, I have noticed in my behavior that my decision as to whether or not I'm actually going to sit down, go back to that email, respond to somebody, do anything with it, I am reaching that decision based on what I can see on the Apple Watch screen. Who has sent it? What's the subject? And what can I see with one scroll? If it doesn't stand out to me in that amount of real estate, chances that I'm actually getting to it plummet.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. A good pro tip there. Just some commentary that's coming in. This is actually from you, Dan. I think I have a hammock ready to hang behind me that someone sent you through Sendoso. Another a person who's an SDR manager said personalized video conversion rates outweigh over any kind of praying and spraying. Absolutely. Scheduling, there's two forms of scheduling that we're mentioning just to get to all the comments here. It's the link-based schedule where you're putting all the work on the prospect to go and schedule a meeting of their own demo or discovery meeting for the rep or the SDR. And then our version at CardinalLogic is called Calendar First, and it's the sending of the calendar invite as one of the initial touch points. So a good mix of this could be a lead engagement. It triggers a Sendoso personalized send, which then when the rep gets notified that happens, a video message then is landed to say, hey, I hope you got my gift of XYZ from this event. I went ahead and sent you a calendar invite to meet on that. So that would be kind of a good mixture of these different tactics in an actual SDR cadence where you're going to be much more differentiated and create that personal level where there's just built-in rapport. You get to talk about the gift, you get to talk about the video component, and whatever you were able to bring up in a visual form that's not capable in text, and then that meeting just gets booked automatically, so there's no coordinating. So there's a good mixture there. The next component we'll move on to is around how to stand out. So let's look at another poll of which channels do you use to communicate today? Social, email, texting, mail, calendars, other, something new. And if it's something new or others, go ahead and throw it into the chat and select all that apply on that question. Dan brought one up during our green room meeting of FaceTime. Has anyone actually tried to FaceTime someone, since you may have their cell phone number now? That's an interesting one. I don't know that I would accept anything that's not a family member or grandma, but perhaps. All right, so it looks like we have about the same number of votes from this one. Let's go ahead and close the poll and see what we have. Social is 22%, email 26%, texting is higher than I thought at 18%. Maybe that goes to Dan's comment, but where we're more of the tech savvy audience, perhaps, being involved in the Tenbound community. Mail 15%, calendar 10%, and other is 7%. So the others, if you could just throw in chat what you do use here. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and start with you again, Zach, with some unique ways to stand out. I know that you talked about personalization, but maybe there's some exact examples that are both marketing and or sales driven that people could jump on.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things that are really quick and easy that you can use in the direct mail world. Sendoso has an integration with Amazon, which will allow you to really pick out, of everything that's available, something that can be personalized, but you don't have to dig too deep or waste too much time to kind of reach that level of personalization. Often you're doing research on people's LinkedIns. So one thing that always really stands out is a mug from someone's alma mater, rather than referencing their college in an email or some sort of outbounding message, having it land on their desk, and instantly you've kind of connected and created some reciprocity. They're more likely to engage and follow up and want to have that conversation. Another thing that has been really, really helpful are kid-friendly, family-friendly type sends. Obviously, during the pandemic, people had a lot of children at home under tow, and it was hard for them to kind of buy that time and really focus on those conversations. We're back into the summer months, and so that's a common theme again. So sending activities from Amazon, or we have like e-gifts from Disney and stuff, something that they can throw on a movie. We have like donut kits, activities that the kids can engage with, and buy yourself a half hour to have that conversation. So you're kind of providing some value. Or even if it's something that they don't do immediately with the children, that they can do later, and you've kind of given them some time and some sort of activity back into their life, so it doesn't feel like you're pulling from them as much. And those two plays have been really, really outstanding. Of course, dog-friendly, puppy, pet-friendly stuff works too for those other types of parents out there as well.
Nice. And just because we're running up on time here, to address two questions. As a Power Sendoso user in the past, handwritten note cards, someone says, works wonders. I know Sendoso has that as an option within the tool. And then another question was, what about work from home people? Everyone's working from home now. And just really quickly, to not take your thunder, give you thunder, they have a fantastic tool that allows someone to receive an email, and then that gives them the ability to confirm their address without the sender knowing the address, and it gets sent to their home. It adds that layer of anonymous, and you actually get their home address with just an email. Is that good, Zach?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect, yeah, and it has worked wonders for me as well on that. Dan, really quick on video component, I know that you had something where there was some dynamic signals on specific shortcomings of sales activities.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things in there. Mixing the mediums. So, being able to send a video that then references the link to the Sendoso, being able to send a video in LinkedIn or in text. There's a lot of ways now to do, and FaceTime is funny. I don't know if that's gonna be the future, but like you could send that video in a text, so then they're getting it on their phone, where most of us are watching the videos anyway. So really mixing that to get that personality through, to really show who you are. And that's really where companies like Dynamic Signal and HubSpot and others, two things. They've cut down on the people not showing up to those first meetings. We all have no-shows. When I was at Salesforce, it was like 30%, making sure that people actually show up to the meeting. If you throw them a quick video before, you're now not just ignoring a calendar invite, you're ignoring a human that you just saw, and it's just a psychological difference. But also then just getting that higher response rate because you're showing that you care, and showing, even if the response is a no, SalesLoft still calls that a success, right? You've got an answer, and that's what's key.
Yep. That's fantastic on getting those meeting show rates to increase. And then, Ben, the power of getting that meeting in the first place, and the experience that we've seen with calendar first methodology. Can you dive into there to close us out?
Yeah, I'd say the overarching headline is like, be a little less formal. Like if you've already got the person kind of opted in, and it's reasonable that like, hey, the next step in this is us speaking. No one wants to deal with, 3, 4, 5 emails back and forth. Also, typically in a B2B sale, the power dynamic is wrong to send them a link and ask them to say, hey, will you do work for me, and pull up your calendar and my calendar and, do the job. We've actually got a running chain in our Slack of that gone wrong at customers of ours who have said, all right, I'm ditching the old way. Also, look at this hilarious email chain of back and forth. No, you use yours. No, you use mine. No, you use yours. Just cut through it. Like, you don't need ChronoLogic to do this on a one-on-one basis. Yeah. If you've got someone bought in, create an invite, put a brief little agenda in there, send the invite. It's weird at first. And then once you start doing it, is tremendously liberating. Like, we're onboarding a whole bunch of new employees right now. And one of the big things we cover in employee onboarding is like, we are a calendar first culture. If you need to meet with someone to get your job done, do not send 5 emails asking about what other times, should be available. Create an invite, get the right people on it, get it out the door. If we've got to move it, we got to move it. But let's get it on the calendar, because this is about actually conversing and getting business done anyway.
Yep. And the last thing to drop into that is we're finding when you look at our customer data, 80% of the time or more in many cases, the person is accepting the first time proposed. That works for the rep as long as it's, a 2-3 day out cadence.
I want to double click on that for 2 seconds. I realize we're right up on time, but that is something that is lost on so many people. But what the data through almost 3 years and thousands of meetings scheduled is telling us is that if they're ever going to meet with you, it is about 80% likely that they're just going to take the first time you propose, provided you give them 24 to 36 hours to adjust and make sure. But just get it on the calendar, go from there.
Yeah. Yep. The secret formula, send them a direct mail, follow up with a video message, and send them the invite because the time is right. So thank you, everybody, for joining Zach, Dan, and Ben. This is fantastic. A lot of good takeaways that you can use just today, and you can amplify that with any of these solutions in the more unique tech stack. So thank you again, everyone, for joining, and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.